Hey guys, it's Kevin and this is my review for Justified Season 6, Episode 4, The Trash and the Snake, and was this not the most perfect episode of Justified ever? Like, seriously, this episode did everything you could want in a Justified episode. It had comedy in there, it had drama, it had, like, every supporting character you want to see on this show at some point in this season. It had, like, everything I wanted, and literally this episode was perfect. It had a fantastic cliffhanger, and just where we're headed, I can't wait. Like, seriously, where we're headed is going to be awesome. Let's just get into this episode because it was awesome. So, once again, we start with Ava and Boyd, which is interesting. For the past few weeks, we start with Ava and Boyd, and we end with Ava and Boyd. Same with this episode, because we start with Ava. She sleeps with Boyd. He's staring at her, and his phone chimes with a text telling him to come downstairs. She tells him good morning and asks if he's off somewhere. He says he thought about letting her sleep, but didn't want to sneak out. She asks if he'll be back soon. He says this afternoon. She says she'll get a message while he's gone, and he says he's happy he got to hear her voice before he left. She kisses him and tells him to be careful. He says always and goes. And once he's gone, she grabs her phone, sends a text message, dresses, and goes into the stairwell where she finds Raylan waiting. And he tells her that he's not asking her to sleep with Boyd, but then says she has to do what she has to do. And the maid is startled, and Ava, when she comes to get her cart, and Ava asks what it's like holding someone's fate in their hands. Because, Ava is still very worried about this whole Boyd situation. Obviously, she's worried. Because her relationship with Boyd is just getting better and better, so she's very worried about what's going to happen. And basically, she asks if it's a burden or what gets him out of bed. He says he wants her to fulfill her bargain so she doesn't have to go back to jail. And she says Avery Markham paid them a visit, and it wasn't a friendly chat. She says he brought along a psycho case, and he describes Ty, he describes Ty, and she nods, and she says not to say they don't have a special relationship. He says it's no wonder she's scared with Boyd dream of all those piles of money. And of course, Ava's startled to find Katherine in the room, and one of the things I gotta say about Raylan and Boy with the Pile of Money, he's doing that to get Ava, out, get Ava and him out of Harlan. That's what he's doing. So Ava's startled to find Katherine in the room. We get a lot of Ava-Katherine interaction, and this is like the most focus we've had on Katherine ever, and I actually really enjoyed it. Katherine's character is actually a very interesting character, and I like this Ava-Katherine team-up. I thought it was very well done. She introduced herself, and it says they gave her a key since she paid for the room. She invites Ava to lunch, and she tells her to come to her suite at noon for room service. Katherine notices that Ava's cigarettes are there and asks why. Ava says she only smokes one at a time. And Katherine tells her next time she goes out to take her lawn because she doesn't smoke anymore, but loves standing next to people who do. So you can definitely see that there's going to be, like, some team up there, and the second they start talking, I'm like, I really like them together. So Raylan goes to see Art, who we have not seen since episode 1, and it was great to see Art again, because I like what Art says to Raylan. He asks him about Avery Markham, and he says he pulled in some of his men, and him once or twice, and Raylan asks why he's being, so crotchety about it. He doesn't understand why he's being so difficult, and everything, and basically, why he's being so crotchety, and Art says that pain in the way of clear thinking, and says Leslie feeling sorry for him is shit. That's getting old. He says he's hungry and sick of eating her healthy twigs, cat food, and shit. He tells Raylan that Grady Hale was Markham's partner, and they made a fortune in weed. He says, and I thought this was interesting, Hale went to jail and Markham disappeared, and he says Simon Poole was the U.S. attorney who knew who the snitch was, but then someone blew his head off, and Art says that Markham was likely the snitch. So Raylan asks what all it means, and Art asks why he cares since he's going to nail Boyd, then move to Florida. He tells him not to stray from the trail and get lost, but Raylan says something is putting him off. And Raylan says, when your mom asks you to take out the trash, you see a copperhead on the way, you should take care of that too. Art says there's always another snake, and I like that he's comparing this to Boyd. I mean, what he's basically trying to say is that even though Boyd is his main focus, he needs to take down Avery Markham and all the other ones, because they're causing just as much crime as Boyd is. They're working with Boyd. So, Avery Markham is against Boyd. He needs to take him down. He needs to take down Tyler Walker. I like that Raylan said that, because really he has to take down all these guys, and I thought that was a very well done scene, and Art says there's always another snake and says he can't take them all down. He tells Raylan not to get his ass bit. Raylan, and basically, he's worried about Raylan. So I thought that was a very well done scene. I love seeing Art again. And if Art keeps popping in to give Raylan these warnings, I love it, because I've always loved Raylan and Art's relationship. Art telling Raylan not to do something, Raylan does it anyway, because, Raylan never listens to people. He does what he wants to do. And I love that about Art. I love that Art is giving him these, warnings, because Raylan should be worried. He should. I mean, Avery Markham is a very, very intimidating man. We especially see that in this episode, and I'll get to why he's so intimidating. But especially this episode might have been the most intimidating Avery Markham's been. But basically, Raylan and Tim go to see Calhoun about a secret ledger, and he says a little through a name means cash was offered and accepted. And a line with a circle means first offer was denied, second offer taken. They mentioned that Red Crowell was burned down and had to sell it. And Tim says there have been more fires in the area, and Calhoun says he doesn't think they're bad men, and it's just real estate. He says Markham doesn't have to work, that's hard for land. And Raylan says he doesn't care about Markham's business agenda, only the fate of those people that stand in his way. Calhoun says he has to give a eulogy for those close friends, and he says Betty and John O. Hutchins died in a strange carbon monoxide fire. And Raylan says their name was in the ledger circled and crossed out, and Calhoun says that means they rejected all offers. So Tim and Raylan leave. So now they have this new information. That was kind of interesting. So Katherine tells Ava all about how she can tell that Ava was a cheerleader. And I like this conversation. Very small conversation, but an interesting conversation. Because if you remember, Ava told Boyd once that she was a cheerleader, and we actually get some expansion on that, which I liked. It's a small conversation. It's not like anything huge, but that's one of the things I love about Justified. They can have a conversation about anything in the show, and it could be very interesting. Then go back to Sons of Anarchy, and it's like, yeah, hello. Yeah. Like, it's so boring there. But here, it's so interesting, and I love that about Justified. So, Katherine says cheerleaders had so much power and knew how to use it. She tells Ava, and that's true. I mean, you can tell what girls in my school are cheerleaders. I agree with Katherine wholeheartedly, because the girls who are cheerleaders, they're very powerful, they're good speakers, they're good leaders and things like that. Like, that's true with cheerleaders. So I like that Katherine said that. And she tells Ava she got one of those football players to marry her, and Ava says that doesn't mean she had power, which is true. Katherine says she knows he beat her and she hosts a hole in her chest. Because, I mean, if Katherine had power, she would have said no. Because we know that he abuses her and things like that. And Katherine says she was married to Grady for 20 years and loved him with all her heart, but says they were spans of time, not so much. And she asked Ava how it felt when she pulled that trigger, and says she thinks it had to feel great. And Katherine has one, she's talking about when Ava shot her husband in the first episode. She's talking about that. So Katherine has one platter uncovered, then takes the lid off and reveals several lines of coke. And, I like that they mention that, because honestly, that's the whole reason they're in this mess. That's the whole reason Ava's involved in this. That's the whole reason any of this started, was because of what Ava did. That's why any of this started, and I love that they mention that, because it just shows how powerful Ava really is. It was such a well-done scene that I loved that about this scene. I thought it was very, very well done here. So, she says, Katherine says it's pharmaceutical grade, and she's going to need it for what she has planned. And basically, Wynn and Boyd talk about Avery. It's bringing down his legal weed operation to Heartland. They go to see one of Wynn's guys, but Wynn warns him the guy's mind is gone. And, something I read about this is that this could have been the whole plot, is just Wynn and Boyd trying to clean up the mess that Avery started. It could have been the whole episode. But it's one scene. I'm not kidding. One scene. That's how good Justified is. Justified doesn't have time for this. Justified doesn't have time to slow down the story. No, Justified has to be... Because we're on episode 4 now, so we need to, start speeding things up, and I love that. I love that Justified's like that. So they go to see one of Wynn's guys, but Wynn warns him the guy's mind is gone. Bridget tells Wiz the guys are here. She's playing with her snake when Wynn talks to Wiz about using Emulex to blow the safe. He laughs and says it's 16 inches of steel. He says C4 won't work, it needs C11, and he says if you get caught with that shit, they take you to Gizmo and put a car battery on your nuts. Boyd asks Wiz to walk him through the plan. Wiz says he got them another egg seltzer to practice on, and he says it's in an old foundry out of town, and so they can do some test runs, and they roll out to go practice blowing up a super safe. And Boyd says that the safe looks enough like the other one. Wiz says an A-bomb could go off and still would be standing. Boyd says it doesn't sound like confidence, but Wiz says this is just brute force. Drill and kill. He asks for their cell phones. They hand them over. So Katherine takes Ava with her to a fancy jewelry store, and Winston shows Katherine this tennis bracelet. And I like seeing this Katherine-Ava interaction. She asks him to let Ava try on something pretty to give her a thrill. He showed her some sapphire earrings, and she says she's afraid to touch something so expensive, but he insists. She hands back the earrings, but drops it, and Katherine takes that moment to swap out the tennis bracelet for another. And Katherine says she's going to pass it on to the bracelet now, and they go in the car. And in the car, Ava asks what if Katherine got caught, and she says she's too scared of her to do anything in case she still has juice. And I feel like this is referencing what Ava has to do to Boyd. If Ava gets caught with what she has to do to Boyd, she's very worried, obviously. So I feel like that's what Ava's asking her about. It's not so much, will she get caught for the earrings? It's, is Ava going to get caught for what she's doing to Boyd? I think that's really what it's all about. So she says when Grady was still alive, she had a charge account there and at a dozen other shops. And Tim and Raylan go to the Hutchins place, and Tim asks if she was the teacher who taught little Raylan to care. And Raylan says she was mean, but says he doesn't think they died of natural causes. Tim says the names in Calhoun's ledger are all top farmland in Harlan. And Tim and Raylan poke around, and Tim says the windows are covered with plastic and taped up. He says he bets they have no next of kin, and Avery will pick it up at an auction. And Wynn tells Boyd he grew up in Hawaii and used to surf competitively. Wiz works and then asks which way the door swung and what year it was made, since they changed materials in 1970. A phone rings and Wiz says he told them to leave their phones in the car. The explosive device in his hand goes off, he's vaporized, and Wynn and Boyd are splattered with gore, and literally the guy just died. So I love that about Justified, that they just killed him. I love that. They didn't spend all this time with him. No, he's just dead. And I thought that was hilarious, honestly, when he just died. So yeah, Wiz is gone. So Raylan and Tim then go to see Dickie, and oh my god, Dickie Bennett. When we saw him last year was so funny. This was no different. This was absolutely hilarious. Again, when we saw him, he's just such a funny character. I don't know what it is about him, but he's just so funny. He adds this comic relief to the show, and he's just so arrogant and so funny, and I love the best character. He's such a dumbass at points too, but he's so funny as well. And the guy, of course, in a wheelchair, and Tim asks why if they want a conjugal visit, and Raylan offers Dickie some sweets, and Dickie asks if this is a revelation, a vision like he's been having lately. And Raylan says he will load up his commissary in exchange for cooperation in a federal case, and he calls Dickie numbnuts and tells him to search his soul, and he says he has incipient diabetes, and Tim says to barter the sweets, and Dickie says there just ain't no way he's going to cooperate. He even sings it out, and Raylan says he can't always make his life more unpleasant in there. And they asked Dickie who bought his lands, and Dickie says he sold it and pushed back and ended up with a tidy sum. And he says it was a woman who was the guy behind the guy. Raylan asked if it was LM Consolidated, who was a woman, and that's the name of the company that bought it, and that's Loretta. Yeah, Loretta's back in the picture. And I honestly, Dickie's freaking out. He has no idea Loretta was that powerful. Oh my god, we saw Loretta again. I never thought we'd see Loretta again. I thought the conclusion to Loretta was episode 2 of season 5, just to show that she's, she's basically just turned into a smartass, and she still is a smartass, but Ty talks to Loretta about selling her land holdings. He tells her to forget the first offer and says they will double their offer. She says she needs to think about it. Ty says if she invests it wisely, she'll never have to work a day in her life. She says she needs a drink and offers him one. She says a friend of hers makes it and calls it apple pie. She pours him a glass of Mag's favorite poison moonshine. And the second one she did that, I'm like, she's gonna kill Ty. Seriously, she's gonna kill Ty because, we remember that that's how Mags killed herself. Remember? Mags killed herself that way? And I love that one of the things I love about the show is just how serial it is. The show is so serial because this is something that happened back in season 2. And now it's season 6. And we're still focusing on that. And also what happened with Ava. It just shows how serial the show is and how important it is to just continue to watch this whole show. In fact, a friend of mine who was watching the show said he's going to stop watching the show for now because he needs to binge the entire show. I advise all of you to do that. If you guys are watching the show right now and have no clue what's going on, watch the entire show. Stop what you're doing now, watch the entire show because You're not going to understand that reference unless you watch the entire show. I understood it perfectly, and I laughed at that. I thought that was great. So Tim and Raylan show up. He doesn't drink it, obviously. Ty says they're not done, but Raylan says they are, and asks Loretta to take a step to the right. Raylan says she's done talking, so Ty needs to get his ass out. He calls Avery, but doesn't leave the house. Ty steps back into the house. I honestly thought that Raylan was going to shoot him because he was going for his gun. I thought he was going to shoot him right then and there, but I'm just like, he's not pulling the gun at him. Why would he shoot him? So he says he's pleased to meet Loretta too and says they can sit and have a civilized conversation. Avery sits and just, oh my god. I think the thing with Avery, the reason he's so creepy is just because of how calm he is. He's so fucking calm and so creepy. Like, literally, he is so calm. So calm, so laid back, and that's why he's so creepy. That's why Avery's such a disturbing character, because of how creepy he is. So he sits and reaches for the glass. He sniffs and says that takes him back. He tells her to stick her pinky in and have a lick. He must know about Mags, and she does. And Raylan says that Avery did his homework, but he says he grew up on a dirt tobacco farm. Tim says he traded one lead for another. Avery says he knew Mrs. McReady's dad and Mama and the Bennetts, and that's how he knew to check the glass. And I like how, one of the things I've always loved about Justified is how everyone is related. I've loved that, because, I mean, he says he knew Crowder's too, but not any Givens, and I thought that was interesting that we found that out, because, I mean, last year with the Crows, the year before that, Robert Quarles wasn't related to anyone, but the Bennetts have always come back into the picture, if you remember. I mean, if you think about the Bennetts have always come back into the picture, and I love that about the show. I just love how everyone is related. The Bennetts knew Crowders, the Crowders knew, the Crows. I mean, it's so well done, how serialized the show is. I love that about the show. I do. I would love for someone to make me a Justified family tree so I can remember who's still alive on this show. Just please do that. I need a Justified family tree. I need something like that. So Avery says the last minute is up in jail, and Loretta asks what is going on, and Raylan says he's making her an offer she can't refuse, and says if she doesn't take it, he'll kill her. And he goes like all Godfather on her, so... basically, Loretta says she won't sell at any cost. Raylan says he can't have his land and Loretta's. I thought he was going to kill her. I did. I mean, just because of how much of a smartass she's being, but then just like she's always been a smartass, so obviously he's not going to kill her. Markham says he doesn't see how he can say that legally. Raylan tells him to take his briefcase of money and go. Raylan says what's next is based on the next choice Markham makes. He says he'll burn a joint on the way out since it helps him think. He asks Raylan if he's going to haul him in, and Raylan says not for weed. Markham takes off, and Avery takes off, and Ty follows. And so basically, they got away. But I definitely feel like Loretta and Dickie are going to come back into the picture. I just know they are. So Katherine and Ava hang out, and she tells her that she ran Gray's business and says he was just the face and she got things done. She says it must have been hard to let him take the credit. And Katherine says taking his partner as her lover helped, and says Avery was the best lover she's had. She says she knows Avery ratted out Grady and is responsible for her lifestyle. She says he has much killed her husband and you have to do something about it. And I like that she said that to her, because in some ways, yeah, he did kill him just as much. So Loretta says she won't sell at any cost, and Raylan says he can't have his land and Loretta's and Avery's. And Avery says he doesn't see how, I just read this. Katherine says there was a lot of Dixie Mafia in jail when Grady supposedly committed suicide. And Katherine gets a chime on her phone and says that's her message, and asks Ava to leave. Ava thanks her for an interesting day. She says it was short. Lucky that guard who said she stabbed him came clean the way he did. And she asks if Ava thought of thanking Albert, but Ava says he was crazy and just finally told the truth. If you remember, Albert was in love with her. That's why he stabbed himself, because he was in love with her, and that's why he didn't want her to go and everything, but he was crazy. So I like that they mentioned that also, because if you didn't watch Season 5, you wouldn't have understood that. Katherine says something made him do the right thing and offers to find out what made him so clean. And Ava says she'd likely just stab him in the eye, and Katherine calls her a firecracker. Ava leaves, and Raylan talks to Loretta and tells her if she's going to set her sights on the drug business, she's going to keep running into people like Avery. And she asks if he's telling her to walk away from weed. He tells her to post two big guys out front to stay safe, and she asks if they're done. He gets a call from Ava and says Katherine asked her about Albert Ficus and why he changed his testimony. And Raylan says she's just testing her, and Ava says she has to get out of there, and she says she's still at the hotel. Sorry, guys. He tells her to go to the Horseshoe Diner, and Sentence want to meet her. Then she hangs up because Boyd comes in, and once again we end with Ava and Boyd. He asks why she's parking, and, she asks why she's packing, and she says she thought they were leaving tonight. He offers to crawl back into bed and order ice cream, and she says she wants to get home and sleep in her own bed, and then he calls it our bed. And he asked if she's okay. He says Wynn told him she was having lunch with Katherine, and he asked what they talked about, and she says nothing. He asks if Katherine mentioned how good looking he is. She laughs, and he tells her to sit down. He asks to see her hands and kiss her fingers. She tells Boyd that she needs to tell him something, and he says he knows what she's going to say. He says he's taking her home, and they never have to leave Harlan County again. He tells her that Avery's buying up land to grow legal pot. He says Avery knows all about this. He says he's going to sell Avery's money. That's his idea. And says they are going to make a killing and bring prosperity back to Harlan County. So basically, he's going to steal Avery's money, and she asks what about them on the beach, and he says his legs look bad in a bathing suit. He says they can have it all and have it in Harlan County. He says he's going to take a shower, then have her back in Harlan County before the sun comes up, and that's how the episode ends. And it looks like next week, Ava's going to go missing, but what's really going to happen is that she's going back to Harlan County. So this whole thing with him getting her out of Harlan County is over because now they don't have to get out, because now he's going to steal Avery's money and basically become as rich as Avery is. And wow, what an awesome cliffhanger. What an awesome episode. Wow, so much to talk about now. Because first of all, Raylan really has to decide what he wants to do here. Does he want to focus on... Is he gonna, does he want to focus on Boyd and, does he want to focus on Boyd or does he want to focus on Avery? Because, I mean, they're both very deadly criminals, but honestly, at this point, I would focus on Avery because what Boyd's doing, he's just protecting his woman. That's what he's doing. He's protecting his woman. He has no idea what's going on, but Ava needs to tell him what's going on soon. She has to tell him, because if she doesn't tell him soon, it's going to end up terribly for them. I know those two are going to end up terribly heartbroken. When she tells him, he's going to be heartbroken. I know that for a fact. He's going to be like, why would you listen to Raylan? Why would you do this to me? I understand that. Raylan and Loretta, I definitely feel like we're going to see Loretta again. I don't think this is the end of Loretta. I mean, Loretta is the one that opened up this drug business, so I definitely feel like, I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen there. I always love that Raylan's been like a father figure to Loretta. If you remember, Raylan really cared about Loretta. He's always tried to be like a father figure to her, and I always have loved that about Raylan. But the other thing I do have to say about Raylan and Loretta is that, is Loretta going to continue this drug business? Is Avery going to continue working for Loretta? Because, I mean, Loretta really is part of this business now. Dickie, I definitely feel like you're going to see. I love seeing Dickie again. That was awesome to see. Katherine and Ava. Do you think that Ava's going to tell Katherine possibly what she's doing? I thought she was. I really did. I thought she was going to tell Katherine that she was working for Raylan. I really did. There was a point in this episode where I thought she was going to tell her, but she didn't. I really like seeing those analogies to Ava being a cheerleader, when really Ava's thinking in her head, really what that's trying to show is of how powerful she is, that it's going to end up killing her. It really is. I mean, Ava's going to live on this show, definitely. Ava's not going to be the one to die. Raylan's probably going to die, Boyd's probably going to die, but Ava's probably going to live. I'm going to say that right now. Ava's going to live. We know that, but it's just showing how powerful she is and what power can do to someone, and how you have to be very cautious with that power. Because think of how powerful she is right now. I mean, she is an informant for Boyd, and she really does not want to be. It really just shows how powerful she is, and it's a very well done scene. I'm definitely really enjoying that as well. I think that's very, very well done. Ty and Avery. I honestly thought Ty was going to die in this episode, but I think Ty is going to die eventually. I think that Raylan's eventually going to kill him. I don't think he's going to kill him yet, but I definitely feel like soon he's going to die. As far as Boyd and Ava leaving, I don't know how this is going to end up for Raylan, but if she ends up leaving, then there's nothing they can do about that. I mean, Boyd got her away, so there's nothing they can really do about that. If Ava leaves, then she leaves. They have to deal with that, basically. And they have to understand that she wanted to leave. So if she wants to leave, let her leave, because she wants to. And they can't really do anything about that. But I have to say, the thing I'm loving the most about this season is just how serialized it is. As I said, I love the format of it. I love that we're seeing things that happen. I love that we're referencing things that happened back in Season 1 and still talking about them in Season 6. It's awesome that they're doing that. That's what a good serialized show does. It takes things that happened back in Season 1 and talks about it again in Season 6. That's awesome to see. This is honestly more serialized than the Americans. The Americans is serialized, but this is the most serialized out of the two, definitely. Because if it still has Loretta and Dickie and how everyone's related, I love that. I love seeing that Avery's working with Loretta. I love seeing Loretta again. It was awesome to see Loretta. I love Loretta's character. I've always loved Loretta's character, but it's awesome to see her again. Awesome to see Dickie again. It's always fun to see Dickie. I definitely like seeing Art again as well, because I definitely want to see what their next conversation is going to be. Definitely, I feel like we're going to see Art a lot more times this season. The only person we did not see in this episode was Rachel. We did not see Rachel in this episode, but that's really because they didn't have an actual, like, mission. Their mission was just find out what's going on with Avery, and just find out what they really want to do here. Because I feel like Raylan really has made a decision here. Does he want to go after Avery, or does he want to go after Boyd? He really hasn't made that decision yet, because I mean, that's basically what Art said to him, is that he has to make a decision. He can't just go after either one. He has to go after one and then focus on that. And I understand that. I do understand why Art said that to him. But definitely Raylan needs to make a choice there, and we'll see what ends up happening. And what else do I want to say? I feel like there's something else I want to say. I love that when Boyd just ended up killing that Wiz guy. That was hilarious to see. But finally, Ty and Avery. After this episode, I am terrified of Avery. Avery is such a good villain. Ty is just a guy who thinks he's so powerful, but he's really not. But overall, guys, that's my review of this episode. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, by far best episode of the season. Such a great episode. And I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for The Flash. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.